Hey, and welcome back to Miss Kitty's Wild West Adventures. Well, I made it safely back from vacation. I'm well rested and ready to take on the new year. But first, I gotta visit the blacksmith shop and get some stuff hot off the iron. Welcome back. What do you get when you mix a preacher's son, a notorious outlaw, and a man with a temper hotter than a Texas summer? You get John Wesley Hardin, the most feared gunslinger of the West and inspiration for some of Hollywood's most iconic characters. You've seen Clint Eastwood wrestle with his past in Unforgiven, and John Wayne face his final days in The Shootist. But did you know that both characters trace their roots to this real-life legend? Saddle up, because today we're separating fact from fiction in the bloody tale of John Wesley Hardin. This video is a compilation of requests from Billy Bones the Pirate 2025 and James McLean 9333, who both suggested a video on the William Money character of Unforgiven, and Robert VS4SM
and Idaho Guy 10157,
who requested a video on John Wesley Hardin. John Wesley Hardin was born in 1853 in Bonham, Texas, to a Methodist preacher and his wife, who named him after the founder of their faith. You'd think that being raised in a preacher's household would have kept him on the straight and narrow, but John Wesley had a mind of his own. At just 14, he nearly killed a classmate in the schoolyard over the honor of a female classmate. A year later, he killed his first man, Major Holzhausen, his uncle's freed slave, in what he claimed was self-defense. It was just the first in a series of bloody conflicts.
By the time he was 17, Hardin had racked up quite the body count. In one instance, his signature pistol-drawing maneuver was witnessed by several bystanders. He had been playing cards with Benjamin Bradley in Hill County, Texas, and winning at almost every hand. His prowess at cards angered Bradley, who pulled out a six-shooter and a knife, and threatened that if he won another hand, he would cut out the man's liver. Hardin said he was unarmed and excused himself from the table. Later that night, Bradley came looking for him. He found him, shot at him, and missed. Hardin reached into his vest, pulled out two pistols, and shot him twice, once in the head and once in the chest. You see, his holsters had been sewn into his vest with the butts of the pistols facing each other, so he had to cross his arms to enter his vest. Hardin said this was the fastest way to pull his gun out, and he practiced every day.
Much of what is known about Hardin is based on his own autobiography. And while some of these stories can be verified by contemporaneous newspaper articles or court records, a lot was embellished by Hardin or unverifiable. For example, he once claimed to have shot a man's eye out to win a bottle of whiskey, but there is no evidence to this. He also claimed to have killed a circus man in a gunfight. While there is a newspaper report of a fight at the circus, according to the newspaper, it was one of the roughs who were killed, and not one of the circus folk. Hardin's outlaw escapades brought him face to face with Wild Bill Hickok in Abilene, Kansas. According to Hardin, he was recruited by some other ruffians to take out Hickok, but Hardin respected the lawman and instead surrendered his guns to him when Wild Bill asked for them. He started to hand over his weapons to Wild Bill, but then at the last minute spun them around so that Wild Bill was facing the business end, before finally handing over his weapons to the lawman. Hardin claimed that from then on, he and Hickok were friendly adversaries. Hardin even claimed that when his cousin, Manon Clemens, was arrested for murder, Hickok helped the man break out of jail. Whether or not that's true, one thing is for certain: Hardin knew how to toe the line between outlaw and respectable citizen, much like John Wayne's character in The Shootist and Clint Eastwood's character in Unforgiven. One of Hardin's most infamous moments also happened in Abilene, Kansas. Hardin was staying at a hotel when the man in the next room, a man by the name of Charles Cougar, began snoring loudly. Hardin yelled repeatedly at the man to roll over. When that didn't work, Hardin shot through the wall, hoping that the gun report would wake the sleeping man. Instead, the bullet struck him through the heart, killing him instantly. According to his autobiography, when he saw his frenemy, Hickok, arrive to the hotel with 4 associates in tow, Hardin fled the hotel, half-dressed from the second-story window. He wrote, "I believe that if Wild Bill found me in a defenseless condition, he would take no explanation, but would kill me to add to his reputation." This incident showcases not only Hardin's recklessness, but also his quick trigger finger. In early 1872, Hardin married Jane Bowen, whose family was allied with a local family, the Taylors, who had been engaged in an ongoing feud with the rival Sutton faction for years. And so, Hardin himself became a participant in the infamous Sutton-Taylor feud, a bloody conflict between rival Texas families, much like the Hatfields and McCoys. In August 1872, Hardin was wounded by buckshot during a heated exchange over a poker game at the Gates Saloon in Trinity, Texas. For a little while, it didn't look like he was going to make it. While recuperating, he had a moment of repentance and surrendered to Sheriff Richard Reagan of Cherokee County, Texas. In order to make amends, he asked to be tried for his past crimes. However, when he learned just how many murders he was going to be tried with, or maybe it was when he wasn't on death's door anymore, he had a change of heart. He panicked and had a relative smuggle in a hacksaw into the jail. Despite the watchful eyes of no less than 6 guards, he was able to saw through the jail window and escape in November 1872. A $100 reward was offered for his arrest. For the next couple of years, he drifted through the South from Texas to Florida. And on his 21st birthday in 1874, he reunited with his buddies in a Comanche, Texas saloon. While at the saloon, he spotted Brown County Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb enter the saloon. Hardin asked the lawman if he was there to arrest him, to which Webb replied that he was not. So Hardin invited the lawman for a drink. As they walked toward the bar, Webb began to pull out one of his weapons. One of Hardin's associates called out to Hardin, and Hardin quickly turned around and shot the deputy sheriff dead. As it turned out, the sheriff did have an arrest warrant on his person, but he was telling the truth. He wasn't there to arrest Hardin. He was there to arrest a member of his gang. Now, Webb had been a popular lawman, and a lynch mob quickly formed. 3 of Hardin's gang were hung, but Hardin and his family managed to escape Texas. The reward for his capture was increased to $4,000. In 1877, after years of evading the law, Hardin was finally captured by Texas Ranger John Barclay Armstrong while traveling with his wife and children. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb. While in prison, Hardin wrote his autobiography, a mix of fact and fiction that turned him into a Wild West legend. He also claimed to have found religion and studied law. After he was released in 1894, he passed the Texas bar exam and was ready to start a new chapter, or so it seemed. But Hardin couldn't escape his violent past. He quickly became embroiled in disputes and made enemies in El Paso. On one such occasion, Hardin made a $5 bet that he could knock a sleeping man off of his soapbox he was laying on. Hardin shot the soapbox, causing it to collapse, and the man fell to the ground, hitting his head in the process and dying. Hardin was charged with negligent homicide. Hardin's life ended as violently as it began. In 1895, he was shot in the back of the head by John Selman, a local lawman, after a heated argument at the Acme Saloon in El Paso. Hardin had been playing a dice game when he was shot, and his last words were, 4 6s to beat. Hardin's legacy didn't end with his death. His guns, personal artifacts, and even the bullet that killed him have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. and his larger-than-life story inspired John Wayne's terminally ill gunfighter in The Shootist, who in turn influenced Clint Eastwood's retired killer in Unforgiven. Both characters grapple with redemption, mortality, and the weight of their violent pasts, much like John Wesley Hardin did. So was John Wesley Hardin a misunderstood man trying to survive in a brutal world? Or was he the embodiment of cold-blooded violence? Either way, his legacy looms large, not just in the history books, but also in the silver screen. If you enjoyed this foray into the Wild West, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ding the bell for notifications. And if you're a loud snorer, beware of John Wesley Hardin. He might just get you through the wall. In the meantime, I'll catch you on down the trail.